Hello there. This is MD. Here with you on SaskiYano. Here we go again. We are in a new After Effects tutorial. In this tutorial, we're gonna take a quick dive into some of the settings in After Effects that will be important for your projects down the road. So let's jump up into the menu here, under Edit. And I want you to follow along. Go to Preferences. And then General. And when you do this, this is going to bring up the After Effects preferences. And although there are a lot of things in here, there are only a few that I want to draw your attention to. And you can take some time and explore this at your leisure. But for now, I want to jump to grids and guides. This is a section that you may find yourself returning to from time to time. I know for me, this is something that I jump to depending on the project. In this section, we have settings where we can adjust things for grids, proportional grids, guides, and safe margins. The guides, the proportional grid and the regular grid, or something that I adjust somewhat frequently depending on the project. With some of the things that are helpful are the grid spacing. So this will put a great line every 128 pixels. And I have that set because I believe I was working one last I used a grid on a project that was in 720 resolutions, which is 1280 by 720 pixels. And so if you were to put this on something like 200, you can't evenly divide 200 into 1280. And so the grade is not going to be perfectly centered. And that's something that I like. If I'm working on a 720 comp, which is 1280 pixels wide. Also the grid lines every 128 pixels. And that will at least give me horizontally a grid line that ends up to be in the center of my composition. And then I will adjust the subdivisions, which are how many grid lines it'll be put in between the main lines. Depending on what I'm working on, I use proportional grids occasionally. So that's grids. Guides are something that I use all of the time. You can change the style. I just leave it on lines. I find that works fine. The color though is something that you may find you need to change depending on your composition. If you're working on a composition that has a background color that is similar to this, you're not gonna be able to see those guides. You can go in here and you can change the color to something else, something that has more contrast for you. Alright. So that's grids and guides. Next, let's jump down to media and disk cache. I just want to draw your attention to this section right here. If you have a computer that has more than one hard drive in it, more you have the capability to add another hard drive something fast, then you can increase the performance in After Effects. And the performance in After Effects is something that, well, if it's slow, is not very fun to use. But if it's humming right along, it makes your day a whole lot better. So you want to make sure you have this disk cache enabled. And if possible, you want to choose a disk cache folder on a fast hard drive or solid state drive. Separate from your footage and allocate as much space as possible. Lots of programs and even your operating system use a caching system. In After Effects, when you are playing back video, when you're just trying to preview it, say you made some text, fly across the screen or whatever. In order for you to see it, After Effects has to render every single one of those frames. And unlike other videos you watch on YouTube or on television, this video is not compressed. Every single frame is an uncompressed essentially. It's a photo. And you're just seeing a stream of those photos in order, which is what makes the illusion of moving pictures or video. And because each one is uncompressed and they're all kind of individuals, it doesn't do what's called temporal compression. That can take up a lot of space. So to make things go a little bit faster, you can cache some of those frames. And that way if you make a change and then you revert, it doesn't have to re-render those. Because those frames are already cached. And the soreness hard drive. And so Afterface can serve those up to you a lot faster. You can check the help file. Or search online for more information on the disk cache. Just want to draw your attention to it. And finally, I want to go over autosave. Autosave is in my estimation a lifesaver. Some folks don't think so. I do. In my history with After Effects, a lot of the time it's awesome. But then sometimes things go crazy. Things get sideways. Or upside down. In After Effects will quit. And you will lose whatever you were working on. If you don't have autosave enabled. That can be a day record. So, I would recommend that you enable autosave. And then adjust the maximum project versions. And the save every interval. To something that suits to you. You want to kind of balance this. On how many times you want to be annoyed. Because every time After Effects autosaves, it pulls focus from whatever you're working on. As a little autosave dialog. I'm sure you'll see it throughout this course. That pops up and you can't do anything while autosaving. As long as you're working on a simple project. It only takes a few seconds. And you may not even notice it. If you start working on really big projects, this can take like 30 seconds or more to write to actually make the file and save it to a hard drive. And that can be annoying. So, I have this set to 20 minutes. You also want to balance this with how fast you work in After Effects. If I'm doing something where I am just doing a lot of stuff, I may go in here and adjust this to like 10 minutes. Or like 8 minutes or something. Especially if After Effects is having a bad day. And for whatever reason. If you're using some plugins that After Effects doesn't like. Or if you're doing something that has angered After Effects in some way. You're not constantly losing a third of an hour's worth of work. Every time After Effects decide that your day is going to be ruined. So, make sure you have autosave enabled. By default, it is set to save next to your project. So what that will do is where we have your project saved. It'll create an After Effects autosave folder. And in that folder, it will put versions of your project. So that's pretty much it. There are lots of other settings here. Audio hardware. And audio output mapping. These are things that you want to explore. And just kind of browse around here. And make sure you put your eyeballs on a good portion of these preferences. So that you're a little bit familiar with them. For now, we can jump into something far more interesting. Coming up in the next tutorial. I'm going to walk you through it. Some of the tools that you are going to be using After Effects. All of the time. So check that out. Coming up next. Finally, we are done for today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave your comment down below in the comments section. Also, if you want to learn more, take a look at our first channel, Everything PS. See you next time. Bye.